If you'd like to learn about CFrames, what they are, how to use them, and how to apply them in your projects, keep watching and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Welcome to Roblox Snippets. For this particular video, I have developed just a simple part model which you can download from my website using the description below, or visit the website in the introduction there and download it yourself. When you do download it, then you should end up with something like this, a .zip, so partmodel.rbxm.zip. And in your downloads, if you go right click and open with, now I'm on a Mac, so I'm using the archive utility. However, on a PC it should be something like WinZip or some other archive tool, and unzip it, and you'll end up with this ws partmodel.rbxm file. The WS part stands for workspace. So in your project, if you open up a blank project like this and you come up to workspace, right click on workspace, come down to insert from file, then in your downloads folder locate your RBXM file here and left click on it and click open, and you will get the part model I created. Now it's nothing outstanding, it's simply two parts, and they have a surface GUI that has been put on the front surface of the part with a couple of text labels. Okay, so no scripts in it, totally safe to use, and we're just using it to illustrate how we're going to use CFrames today. So if you can get up to that stage, we are ready to go. Alright, so we're looking at CFrames today, and just so you're clear, as you can see up on our indicator up the top here, we are looking forward, and this is the front part of these parts. So it's sort of important because we're dealing with rotation and things. So for instance, if I click on my spawn point here and right click, you'll see this show orientation indicator. So you can see it is facing forward. So we're looking at the back and we're facing forward. If I click on our part A and right click show orientation indicator, you'll see that its forward facing part, okay, is facing towards us. Alright, so hopefully that makes sense in that it's fairly important to know the orientation of your parts when you're working with them or working with CFrames, and it will be the same for this one here. So the orientation indicator is on the front facing us. Alright, hopefully that makes sense, and just check to make sure that yours are orientated correctly so that you can understand what's going on. And when you are happy with that, you can hide those again, so just click on them, right click and hide orientation indicator, so we don't have the weird little circles with arrows on them floating around. Okay, so now that we have that in the part model, we're going to put our scripts today into part A. Alright, so left click on part A and we're going to add a script. And we'll change this to be CFrame script, and I'd like you to put a 1 at the end of it. So what we're going to do is we'll make a few scripts and we'll just deal with one at a time, because you may want to tuck this away somewhere as a reference project for when you're working in your own projects to see how to do things or understand things. This first one, we're just going to look at what is a CFrame. So we'll put a comment up the top here, so 2 minus signs, CFrame, position and rotation. So this is basically what a CFrame is. It contains position information and rotation information. So just below this, we'll create a variable for our part A, which will be, and we'll go through, we'll just say script.parent here, and let's print part A dot CFrame. Okay, you'll see that it comes up, and right below this we're going to add a comment. Okay, the 3D position of the CFrame, and we'll put in here print, and we'll type position and a space and equals, and then we can just add a comma to separate the things we're printing and put part A .cFrame .position, so that's one part of the CFrame, and then right below this put another comment, the forward facing direction of the CFrame, and we'll put in here print, and this will be the rotation, and put here part A dot CFrame dot rotation. Okay, so we're going to have a look at that, and we can simply come up and click on just below the play up here. There's a drop down, and we can just run this. Now down the bottom is where you should see it. If you haven't got your output window open, you come up to view, and it's the second one in on the top row, output, and you should see this. So you get all of these numbers in a row here, which is all very confusing, alright? But we've broken it down. So we've said the position is this first part, so you can see -8, 2.5, -16 is the position that part A is sitting in the workspace. Okay, so that's how it's referred to. And then the numbers after that, if you have a look, all of these numbers refer to the rotational aspects of it within the workspace. Now, if you imagine 3D space, try to explain this, because if you count how many are here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So if you were to take this cube and put a dot on each corner, alright, and then you were to put a dot sort of in the middle here and through the center, you'd end up with a three-dimensional space that sort of represents these numbers down the bottom. Is the easiest way to explain it. Now, you don't have to really work with all of this specifically. There are easier ways to go about working with rotation, which we'll have a look at shortly. The most common thing you work with is position, but I'll show you how to work with this. But I just wanted you to understand that a C-frame initially is made up of position and a rotation data. Okay, so that's the first script that we're looking at, and if you're happy with your understanding of that, you can come up and stop, and then we'll have a look at our next script. So we'll come over and create a new script. So click on part A, add a script, and we'll call this our CFrame script 2. And so we don't get confused, just come up and close your first script, and on number 1 right click and come down and disable the script, so it'll just turn it off, and now we'll just be running our script 2, which is up here. And to get rid of our prints down here, you can click on this and save it, and we're ready to have a look at the next part of CFrames. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is how to rotate a part with or rotating a C-frame. So in we'll get rid of our hello world, and we are in a separate script, CFrame script 2, and we'll make a comment up the top here. We are going to rotate a C-frame. Now, to make this visually more appealing, we're going to also create a tween, and the tween will actually rotate the C-frame backwards and forwards. So if you haven't used tweens, just follow along, and I'll give you a quick explanation as we go. But we need another variable here, so script.parent for our part A, and now we'll get the tween service, so TS, and we'll say game get service and tween service. Now the tween service makes use of some information in order to determine how it runs the tween. So we're going to put in here info, local info equals, and we type tween info dot new, and if you could add in the following details for me. So in this set of brackets, just so it's easier to read, if you drop down a line, so it's like this, and then inside we're going to say 2 to start with, and if you follow the helper text up the top, this will complete over 2 seconds. We add a comma, and then we're going to add an easing style. I do videos on this about tweening, so if you're not sure what this is, you might be able to watch one of those to get a better idea, or try some out yourself. So the easing style would be enum.easingstyle.linear, add a comma and drop down a line, easing direction, enum.easing direction, and we will just use in and out, and a comma. Now this is to repeat, and we're going to allow this to repeat endlessly. So if you want it to repeat back and forward, you can put -1. If you didn't want it to repeat at all, you could put a 0 here, okay, or you could specify how many times you want it to repeat, say like 1 or 2, etc. And another comma, and the last thing, do you want it to reverse? And in this case, yes we do, so we'll put true. However, if you didn't want that, you could put in false. Alright, and that is all the info that you need to put inside for our tween. So if you've got all that, you can move it up onto one line to make it a bit tidier again. So just be careful not to delete any of the commas, and put our true up there as well. And so now it's in one line. And move our bracket up there too. Alright, the last thing we're going to add here is a table, and we'll call it goal. So this is an empty table, and the goal is what is it that we want to change. And in this case, we're going to change the C-frame of part A, and we're going to rotate it. So in that case, we're going to say goal.CFrame, right, will equal part A. So that, part A, we're looking at part A's C-frame. And now what we're going to do is use a special built-in method. So we multiply this by, and type C-frame, so it should come up in blue like this, dot angles, and if you look at this, equivalent to from Euler's angle, so I won't go into the math of it, but you need to input the different numbers, and they are X, Y, and Z of what you want to add. So we can just put angles and we get a bracket. And in our case, let's rotate simply on the Y axis. So we'll put 0, and then we need to put this in radians. Okay, so math.rad, okay, and a set of brackets, and we'll rotate it 90, so 90 degrees, and then comma and a 0. So when we're rotating on the Y, that means that it's spinning around sort of from top down, if that makes sense. You'll see how that looks very shortly when we do it. And then right below this, we'll create our tween. So tween equals tween service, and then we're going to create our tween, so create with the part that we want. So this is where we're getting this up here. Create the instance, which will be part A, and then comma, it's looking for the info that we created up the top, and then comma, and the property table, which we have called goal. And with all that information, it can create the tween. Now, so we don't miss it, we'll put in here a task.wait of, say, 5 seconds, and then we can simply play the tween. Like that. Now, even though we did all of the tween work here, the C-frame here is the most important part that you're looking at when you want to rotate. Now, I could come up with specific examples, however, everyone's project is different, and at some point you will want to rotate using C-frames, and this line here is the one that you want to make use of. So let's see that run, and this time, instead of using run on the drop down, we'll actually play. Right, I'm loading in, and if you watch, you'll see that part A is rotating on the Y axis, so this one here, so it's rotating around that one 90 degrees, and then we are reversing the tween and it's coming back. So we are rotating this part's entire C-frame 90 degrees around this way. Now you could put in different degrees, 180, so it would spin right around, or whatever you like, or even go negative, so it goes the other way. Alright, but that is what happens when we use this. Now, if we didn't use the tween, that would happen instantly, and the part A here would simply be facing this part here, and that would also achieve the same result. Alright, so we'll move on and have a look at our next script and show you another aspect of using CFrames. Okay, so if we close our, we'll close our CFrames script 2 here, and I'll just open up my properties and etc. Now, what we'll do is we'll tween this one as well, because I'd like to show you that. So if you left click on CFrames script 2, the one that we just did, and right click and click on duplicate, okay, so up here, and the duplicated one will change to be 3, and then we'll come back up to script 2, right click and come down and disable. So now we should have two grayed out 1 and 2 scripts with this one, which is the same. Now I just wanted to use the tween again to illustrate some things in here, so I will close these and we'll make some changes. So up the top here in script 3, we're going to change this to say face towards a point. So we're going to make part A face towards wherever part B is, and for that reason we're going to get part B as well. So this will be, let's turn that off, we'll make some changes to this script. So a local part B, alright, will equal, now it's in the model, so we can go script dot parent dot part B to get the part. Alright, so effectively that just, if you don't quite get that, we're in here, the script, we go up to parent, and then the next parent is the model, and part B is inside that. So that's how that works. Alright, now what we're going to do is right below this, because we want to have a starting position and a target position that the part's going to move from. So we'll make a comment here to create a vector 3 for both the start and target position. So the first one, the start position. Right, now the start position will be wherever part A's position is. So we'll say part A dot position. So that's where it's starting. But we want its position to be, or move to, the target position. So we'll create a, oops, and we're going to make that be part B's. So part B position. So we're going to effectively make part A start wherever it is and then point at wherever part B is. Now the next line down is our tween information, which we can leave, and we can also leave this on. Now because we just want it to face, however, we may not want it to repeat over and over and over again. So like I said, at the end of this line where we've got -1, we can just put 0 there and change this to false, and the tween will simply play once. That's what's going to happen. Moving down to the goal, and I'll just get rid of that at the moment. The goal, now we're going to leave the goal.cframe there equals, but let's delete this line after it, and we're going to create a new CFrame based on the two variables we created up above. So we're going to say CFrame.new, and we're going to make use of the start position and then a comma and the target position. So we're going to tell it to move part A from its start position to its target position here, and then the rest of this down below will simply play. So once again, remember, this is the important line to know how to rotate the part towards the other part. Now let's just change where, if we come into the workspace view, let's click on our, and I'll just do it over here, our part B and let's move it a little bit. So if we come up to home and the move tool, and let's move it back, say over here and over a little bit. Right, so what we're going to see is this part is going to turn around to face wherever this part is. So let's click on File and Save and see if that actually happens. Right, I'm loading in, and if you watch carefully, part A turns around and faces part B. Right, and let's stop that and we'll give it another run, only this time we'll move part B over to the left side over here and run it again. And you should see that part A will now rotate towards that part, and you'll notice that it rotated around this way. Alright, so it didn't actually go round in this way to find that part, it simply rotated round over here. Okay, and you can find that very useful, particularly if you were making something like a tower defense game and you wanted this part to track players or guns to track targets. Very useful. Okay, so we'll just click on stop there. Alright, we will close that script as well, and we're ready. I've got a couple more to show you, and then we'll be done with CFrames. Right, now we're going to have a look at offsetting one part to another using CFrames. So over in your part A you should have our scripts 1, 2 and 3 all disabled, and if we click on part A and we add another script, and we'll call this one CFrame script and number 4, and we'll get rid of this in here. So we'll create variables, or we'll put a comment up the top here, so offset CFrame, and we'll create two variables for our part. So part A will equal workspace dot part model dot part A. So we're just getting our variables in a different way. I could have just said script.parent, etc., like we did earlier. However, part B equals workspace dot part model dot part B. So what we're going to do is we're going to offset part A according to where part B is. So as you can see, part B is over here, and we want to move part A over to part B, but then have it sit next to part B, so offset it. Alright, and to do that, and so we can see it happen, we'll just say task.wait of say 5 seconds. Now we'll take part A dot CFrame, and we're going to make it equal to part B CFrame to start with. So effectively this will move part A right on top of part B, but then we want to offset it. So what we can do is add to this vector3 dot new, and however much we want to offset. Now if we want it to sit right next to one another, if we have a look at our part and we come down to its size, you'll see that it is a 5 by 5 by 5 cube. So we effectively want to move it across by 5. So we'll put in 5 here for on the X, 0, 0. And that's it. Now you should find when we run this, we'll just give it a save and play. You should find that part A will now move just to the right of part B. Okay, which it has. It's snapped perfectly there. Now if you wanted to put part A on the other side, if we stop that there, then we could come in and simply change this to a minus. Oops, not a square bracket, a minus, and we'll give it a quick save and play again. And this time you should see that part A snaps to the left side of part B. Okay, so that's how to use offsets. Now there is one more that I'd like to do around offsets, but this is relative to parts in the workspace, which is slightly different. So we'll do that one next. Okay, we'll do one more, and what we'll do is just close script 4. However, we can duplicate this one. So right click on it and duplicate, and we'll change the one that was duplicated to say number 5, and come up to 4 then, and we will disable that one. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4 all disabled with now script 5 if we open it, and we're going to change the comment up the top here to say relative position. Right, and we're going to do a couple of things in here in terms of these two parts and how they work together. Alright, so we will make use of the two parts up here, so we've got those. Now what we're going to do is initially we're going to rotate part B so that it goes on a funny angle. So let's create a variable just here below, and we'll say part B, and I might just put rotation. And we're going to rotate it, say, minus 45 degrees. And we'll add a task.wait just below this so that you can see each of these steps happen. And we'll say 5 seconds. Now we'll actually change part B's rotation by, remember how we did it earlier? So we said part B, so the part that we want, the C frame, equals, and we're going to take part B's C frame, so part B dot C frame, and we're going to multiply it, remember, by C frame dot angles, and inside of here now let's we'll leave X at 0 and Y at 0, and we're going to rotate the last one, we'll say math.rad, and we'll put in part B rotation. So we're going to rotate on the Z axis, which will set part B on a weird angle in the workspace for us. Now we'll, just below this, using that information we had earlier from the previous video, we'll create a variable called offset C frame. And the offset C frame will be, and we'll create one, cframe.new, and we'll say 0, 5 on the Y axis, 0. So we're going to offset part A according, so remember that this, we have now put part B in some weird angle. The offset, we want part A now to make use of this offset to line itself up with part B and offset itself by 5. So it'll be effectively on top. Alright, and then we have our task.wait here, which we can leave at 5. And this last part down here, part A C frame equals part B C frame, and we're just going to get rid of this plus at the end, move right up next to the C frame and put a colon, and you'll see this 2 world space come up. So if you hit enter, we're simply going to enter the offset C frame into here. Alright, so just going through this again so you can understand, the parts will start where they are. After 5 seconds, part B is going to rotate itself onto a funny angle, and then we'll create this variable, and then 5 seconds later part A is going to move itself and rotate and offset itself just above part B. So let's see if that happens. So we'll click on File and Save, and let's play. Right, now we should keep an eye on part B. It's rotated itself 45 degrees, and now part A has, relative to the world space, moved itself to part B and then offset itself above that part. Okay? So that's an example of how to use world space, but also how to use a couple of the C-frame concepts together. Now I hope you got a bit of an understanding out of all of that. I'll just disable this one now. You have 5 C-frame scripts there that you can refer to, and at some point when you're doing your projects, a question will come up around one of these and you'll be able to go, I remember that, and open this up and make use of it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in future videos. If you found this video useful, subscribe now. For more information about my online courses, go to mrbrendanross.com.